Wrestling podcast never felt this great. Tables, ladders, chairs, they tell it all. From the highest highs to the lowest fall. Great and glory tales from the ring. Every chant, every cheer they'll bring. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never felt this great.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Devon and The Duke podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling. And of course, the five-time Hall of Famer, the YouTube sensation, the man that keeps going viral, Brother Devon Dudley. What's going on there, Devon?
I'm all right. Sitting here home, I'm actually washing my filter out for my pool. I went out there and realized that the waterfall wasn't going on. Of course, I'm thinking, oh, shit, more money. Here we go. I got to pay to get this fixed. It seems like when one thing breaks down, everything breaks down.
But that's not the case, right? Were you able to get it all fixed and straightened out?
Well, as we're talking right now, I'm cleaning the filter.
Got it.
And my daughter's home. My one daughter, the youngest one, is home a little sick. She wasn't feeling well, so I had to keep her home.
Good luck to the filter for sure. Listen, man, it is crazy. I can't even say the week that you've had because you've been having a crazy year. But since we last recorded, you have gone viral at least 4 separate times. There have been at least 7 different articles written about that one episode. Just crazy, through the roof. And thank you to everybody who has been so interested and so serious about this show and what Devon has to say and my analysis and what have you. You guys really made that happen for us, and we appreciate it. So we're going to dig into some of that stuff in a moment. But before we even get to that, folks, if you haven't already, I need you to head over to the Devon Dudley YouTube channel. Okay, stop everything you're doing. Head over to the channel. Obviously, hit subscribe if you don't subscribe yet. And you got to check it out. The Last Table, an Unreal documentary on my last match versus the Hardy Boys. Without a doubt, the absolute definitive Devon Dudley documentary. There was nothing that could capture the emotion. There's nothing that can capture the man behind the character. There's nothing that can capture the relationship that the Dudley boys have, that Devon has with the Hardys. There's nothing that has ever captured the realism of who Devon Dudley is historically in pro wrestling than this documentary, which is on Devon's YouTube channel, The Last Table, an Unreal documentary on my last match versus the Hardy Boys. It is top shelf, no question. Devon, you told me that you've watched it a few times, man. I mean, what do you think of this piece of work here?
I mean, before we started filming, I was watching it again. I was very impressed. I mean, the way my guys did everything. I mean, we talked about it before shooting it. I mean, weeks leading up to the match. And I was just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll do it. And we started filming and, I was just like, all right, well, let's just do this. Let's just make this really good, give them exactly what they want, and I did that and man, did it turn out great.
It's it, man. I mean, if anyone says to me, I want you to show me Devon Dudley in a short package here. I'll give you 38 minutes to show me who Devon Dudley is. I'll show them this. That's who the man is. Those are his values. This is his career. This is how he treats his family. This is how much the fans revere him. This is how his peers revere him. Like, this is it. This is who this man is.
And, I'm like every other, guy out there. I mean, I don't want people to think I'm holier than thou. Well, because I'm not. I make mistakes just like the next man do. Just like the next man does. And I want people to be aware of that, but I want people to know that I try to live my life accordingly the way I should, the way God thinks I should, and that's it. I don't preach to people or try to make them, you know, follow my values or what have you. Again, I've fallen just like the next man. I've done things I'm not proud of, but yet I'm human, and it happens. Stuff like that happens. I try to live my life, like I said, accordingly, the way God would want me to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I slip. Hey, the attitude era was a big era for a lot of people. I think that's what I did most of my dirt. But, and I say that because, going out, having a good time, just partying and, you know, having drinks and things like that, doing what everybody normally would do, in the business. But, again, I'm just like you. I'm like the next man. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my family. I enjoy my friends. And I just like to go out there and have a good time. That's it. I'm not asking anybody to follow me or in my footsteps or nothing like that. I'm not trying to preach, like I said, to anybody or make them think that I'm holier than thou because I'm far from that. But I like it that it showed my emotional side, the way I am with my kids, my family, and the biggest thing, if anybody knows me, is my kids. I mean, from Terrence and Terrell, the oldest at 30, to DJ, Amaya, and Talia, 7, 5, and 23 months. I love them, and I give my life for them.
Well, that much is clear. It's on display. There's no question about it, especially in this documentary, The Last Table, an unreal documentary on my last match versus the Hardy Boys. I there was one part that I really, really loved, not because of what was said, but more so just because of the body language. When Mustafa Ali came into the locker room and he was telling a story about how, him and some of the other guys were coming up with all these fancy moves that they're going to do in their match and this and that, and they're going to be doing this high spot and all that. And you say, hey, guys, just remember, if it's time to cut time, your match is going to be the first one to get cut.
Yeah,
And must, and that humbled those guys because it reminded them that you're part of a bigger picture here, and it's not all about you.
exactly.
you know. But the body language when Mustafa was telling that story is what I was paying attention to most, and paying attention to your body language as well. And what I saw in that is somebody who tremendously appreciates and respects you, and clearly has not forgotten lessons that he's learned from you through the years, and how important that is. Because Mustafa now is a top guy. He's one of the top stars in TNA and what have you. So clearly, he paid attention to what you said, and has carried that on, and is now even passing it down his own damn self. I thought that was really cool, man.
Yeah, he's always given me the respect because he said I helped him out a lot. Because when some producers, when they go into doing what they're doing, they don't give explanations. They don't say anything to these guys. These guys are lost, and then they mess up, and then they get blamed. It's like, how do you get mad at them when they don't know? So did I find it for me to say something to these guys and let them know what time it was? Absolutely. I didn't want to see them get hurt. I didn't want to see them get fired or lose money or can't feed their family because the boss got mad. Didn't want that.
And
I
and
went out there and made sure that these guys did exactly what Vince expected them to do, and nothing more, nothing less.
and they praise you for it. That's the part that just really, it's cool, man. It's cool. It's really cool.
Listen, there's some people that I've taught over the years that have listened and benefited from it, and there's other people that are just downright disrespectful. And they can say what they want, but A lot of them should think that I thank me because a lot of times Bubba didn't like him, you know, and Bubba would have killed him. But, you know, they forget that part.
How quickly they forget. It's true. It's true.
Hmm.
There's always those in the bunch. There's always those. You know, Devon, talk to me about these guys, Michael Wanzover and Nick Pappas. They represent Just Hit Record Media, and they've been your documentarians throughout this journey. They're the guys helping you out with the YouTube and all this good stuff, and certainly with this piece. Talk to me about the significance of those guys because from where I stand, they did a fantastic job.
They've done a great job, period, throughout the whole journey with these guys. They know what to do, they know how to do it. And, like I tell them sometimes, I'm like, look, I got visions too, you know, and I would like to express it. And sometimes it's a fight with them, to do that and this and that. And sometimes they're in it. I'll give you a prime example. They had an idea, right? The whole Bubba Maven interview, they had a whole idea about doing something where we want to go over TLC matches and other matches and things like that. And I told them a long time ago, I said, I don't want to do that anymore. I said, if it helped us out when we first started, I said, but believe it or not, I'd rather do something more like an interview like a Joe Rogan or, like an Oprah Winfrey, Phil Donahue, Geraldo. I want to get more in depth, not just talking about things that are just the same thing over and over again. There's only so many times you can talk about the TLC match, and get viewerships. I mean, sure, we can remind people of things that we didn't probably say before, but still, how many more times can you do it? And they were like, no, no, we think this is the best. And I was like, guys, you're missing the boat here. And I remember saying that to them, and they kind of pushed me to the side. I said, look, you guys know better than I do, but I'm just telling you. And I remember we get to Kowloon's restaurant and we're sitting down, and Maven, of course, got there 45 minutes late, which we exposed on the show. Damn you, Maven. And we basically, Bubba goes, all right, so what are we doing? And Nick and Mike said something to him, and he goes, absolutely not, I'm not doing it. I was like, I told y'all. I told you wouldn't want to do it. And he was like, well, why? Nick was like, why not? Nick is always the ballsy one. He's like, he wants to get an answer. And he's like, why not? He was like, it's the same bullshit that we've been doing for years. People know about this stuff. They don't care about that stuff, really. I mean, they care about it, but it's not going to turn heads. It's not going to make a person want to hit the button to click on to see how we did things in the TLC match when they've already heard it 1,000 times. And that's where the concept changed for the show, where we changed it and started getting real. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to have Maven on there to be the interviewer. Like, it wasn't Maven's podcast, but it was mine. But I suggested, I said, I want Maven to do it. I said, if anybody that Bubba respects, if anybody that I respect and Bubba respects, he respects Maven. I was like, and he know Maven won't pull a wool over nobody's head. I said, I'd rather have Maven interview. He's like, well, maybe you could do it, Devon. I said, no. I said, I get what you're saying. I was like, but I don't want to interview him. I said, I want both of us to be on the hot seat. I want both of us to be able to have to answer the tough questions that have never been answered before. Maven agreed with me, and Bubba kind of agreed with me because he was feeling the same thing on the lines of what Nick and Mike were thinking, that I would interview him. He was like, that's different, Devon. He was like, nobody would expect us to do that. I said, I get it, Bubba. I said, but at the same token, I think Maven's the right guy. And sure enough, he was. Maven was
Yeah,
the
I
right
mean,
guy. Not to
you
mention, he
guys went
exposed,
viral on that.
well, for certain reasons. you know, Maven knew what he was doing. And, you know, and again, I want people to understand, and I don't want to really touch too much on it, but I'll touch a little bit. You know, this whole thing with JR, I kept quiet for a long time because I didn't want things to get out of control. I don't want you guys to hate or whatever. Listen, if you have good vibes with JR, if you had good relationships with him, then please, by all means, keep those relationships. I told you, and I let the cat out of the bag, finally, my gripe with him and why I had an issue with him. There were times where him and I would see each other, look at each other, and I would walk away from him. I wouldn't say anything to him. But whether he remembered or not, which I think he does, but it is what it is with that. And I can't go back and change it, and neither can he. So, like I said, I forgave him, but I don't have to forget. And I think it's also good that people who are, maybe prejudiced or racist know that you will be exposed one way or another, whether it's right away, whether it's 10 years, 30 years from now. Eventually, you will be exposed because it's wrong. You can't judge people by the color of their skin or say remarks like that and think you can get away with it, whether you're joking or not. It's not a joke, especially the way society is now and how, it seems like everybody's on edge. You can't really joke around like stuff like that. Not saying that he said it was a joke, but, you just can't do that stuff. And, I don't play that game. Booker T don't definitely play that game. We don't joke around about it because you joke and jokes can become serious and serious can comes into conflict and fights and you don't want that. So, like I said, I forgave the man and I've moved on. When I see him, do I speak to him? No. But that's about it. You have your own opinion on the man, you go with that. Don't go by what I say. And when I say don't go by what I say, in other words, make your judgment of him your decision. Don't let it be influenced by anything that I've said. That's my story with him. If you have a story with him, then by all means, I understand that. But if you don't go by off of what I said, because that's my experience with him, not yours.
It's interesting that story in particular. Uh, you saying JR's name as the person who made racially insensitive comments to you on more than one occasion. That resonated so much. It not only went viral, and keep in mind, folks, what does it mean to go viral? That means that a story in particular is so there's so much action around it where not only people are clicking and reading it or people are going and listening about it, but they're talking about it. So whether it's social media like X or Facebook or Blue Sky or Instagram, there was so much discussion about it, spread like wildfire. But then it took another level because all the websites had to start covering it. Mainstream websites like Yahoo had to cover it. It went hot on Reddit, and then it lasted throughout the weekend. I dropped that episode on a Wednesday, and the chatter hasn't really slowed down. People are still actively discussing it. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? What that tells me is that this is something that goes beyond the world of pro wrestling, and quite frankly, it has gone beyond Devon's experience with Jim Ross. I think we all have had similar experiences, especially people of color and especially Black folk, where you're in a situation where somebody who is a boss, who has authority over you in the workplace, says something to you. Whether you're a woman and they say something that's sexual harassment in nature, whether you're a person of color, a Black person, and they say something racist in nature, whether you are of a certain religion and they say something that's religiously insensitive, but they say something to you that completely crosses the line, and it puts you in a position where it's a judgment call. Do I punch this person in the face? Do I go to HR? Do I just quit on the spot? Like, what do I do? And those moments really partially define us, because if you make the wrong move, that can have disastrous effects, right? That could change the course of your life forever. I think we all have our own stories related to those types of experiences. And that's really the reason why you talking about that, Devon, somebody who's so credible as you are, and you had witnesses, I think people really latched onto that and carried it And that's why it's continued to be part of the discussion. I mean, what do you think about that, man? Why do you think it went viral and it has remained so hot?
Well, like you said, I think some people a lot of people can relate to it. Some people might be going through it to this day. You know, it's sad because we're in 2025 and this stuff is still going on, and it's sad because I hear stuff all the time still. Not not so much the wrestling business, but just in general life itself and how people still to this day. It's sad. Um, all I can do is pray and hope that things can try to get better. But I'm sure a lot of people have been praying about that, but it just doesn't seem to be going away quick enough. But these people are being exposed, and you know, that's it. End the story. So people are being exposed. And again, I didn't even mean for anything to come out, but it did when the question was asked. And if you saw my YouTube channel with Maven, Bubba, and myself, you would have saw that I was trying to still beat behind the bush and not say anything. But I was prompted to, and it came out, and it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. And I'll tell you right now, I think that it has inspired people to be more vocal about some of the challenges that they're experiencing. You know, there's a young lady who's in WWE Evolve right now. Uh, she has an ACL injury, which she's recovering from. Aria Bennett. She was one of the NIL folks. So she was a star athlete even before making it to WWE. But she shared on October 30th, 2:43 p.m., folks. So anyone who wants to look it up, you can look it up yourself at Aria Bennett WWE on X. But she said, hey, some of us experience racism, but we try our best to ignore it. Plenty more of these. Shake my head. And then she posted some of the messages from nameless, goofy fans, if you could even call them that, online. One person's calling her the N word, another person saying something along the same lines. Just crazy stuff, man. That you really don't know what people are going through, folks. But I'm willing to venture, and I am going to ask her directly about this. I'm willing to venture, Devon. You bringing up your experience with JR has prompted folks to speak up more about what they're experiencing because people are paying attention. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, this young lady is brand new in the business, and she's found the strength to actually highlight some of the stuff that she's going through right now.
There's a lot of times like I stay off of Twitter or what they call X now because of the fact that they can be downright rude, obnoxious, and mean. And I go on Twitter or X to promote things, but other than that, I really don't go on there. I don't talk to the fans on there. I stay mostly on Instagram and my private Facebook. Um, but you hear stories like that all the time. There was a young lady about a couple of years ago, Japanese superstar, that committed suicide because something happened. I can't remember what it was, but the fans got involved and they started terrorizing this young lady and making her feel a certain way where the lady took her life, and there is no repercussions from that. There is no um there's no policing that will help people out that are being bullied or what have you. And for the fans to just go and do that, I think it's disgusting. Listen, you may not want to hear what your superstar that you love and honor do. But again, like I said, we're all human and we all make mistakes. You may not want to hear that they slipped up or what have you, but when they do, you have to let them know. And if she's doing that, then God bless her, man. Stay strong because they're only going to try to tear you down. And if they do, keep God first on everything. And you won't lose. You won't be alone. I promise you.
Well said. Well said. And who you're referencing, by the way, is Hana Kimura, who was a Japanese pro wrestler, super popular, super beloved, somebody who was on the brink of true superstardom. She was probably only another year or two away from signing a major contract with one of the big promotions, probably WWE. But she went on a reality TV show called Terrace House, and she was cyberbullied online. The people who were watching the show, they just completely buried her and were incessant about it, um, saying so many negative things, and it completely crushed her to the point, man, where unfortunately she took her life. That was back in May of 2020. You
Yeah,
know,
I remember that. It was. I remember reading about that. Again, these fans got to get a grip on themselves, man. They really do. 'Cause it's not cool. If it was your mother, if it was your sister, a very close cousin, a family member that you loved to death was being treated like this, you wouldn't like it. So why do it to other people? You just wouldn't like it.
well said, well said. You're absolutely right. And once again, condolences to Hannah Kamara and her family, fans, everybody in the industry who knew her and loved her. That was tragic, just completely tragic. Um, Devon, it's interesting to have an opportunity to speak in your own words. No one else is spinning it. It's no one else's interpretation. We're hearing directly from the source about your life, your experiences, and truly your thoughts from a general standpoint. When you reflect back on getting to this point where you can finally set the record straight, how does it feel, man? Because, a lot of people never get this opportunity to do that. Thank God in this modern time where we have technology where we can do podcasting, we can do our own documentaries and things like that. We don't have to worry about a big machine editing us and all that stuff to make themselves look good. How does it
Right.
feel to be able to set the record straight in your own words without being restricted?
It feels great. It feels like, a big burden had been lifted off, even though I've been carrying that burden for a while. And I was angry for a long time. Anytime I saw the man, I was angry because I never let it out on how I felt. And it was almost like, I felt like I wanted to do something about it every time I saw him. But I had to keep my composure and not have to do that. And, but now once it's all out, it's like a breath of fresh air. I don't have to worry about it anymore, and hopefully he understands where I'm coming from. I'm sure he's heard and listened to the things that I've had to say, but I hope that he basically, you know, can come to grips with what he said and, just be a man and say, hey, listen, I said it and, I apologize. Do you accept my apology? Bottom line is I can either say yes or no. But again, just like the Hogan thing, I'm a forgiving man. Listen, like I told people took this out of the content. I said, I'm not telling you to forget what Hogan said. Don't forget it, but I mean, at least try to forgive him. Try to forgive him, because we're all human. We mess up. And, we said things as African American about white people that I'm sure if that got out, it would be bad and vice versa. So we all make mistakes. We all shoot off at the mouth when we shouldn't. And if that's the case, then, if we sincerely, humbly apologize for that, then why not forgive them? Why not move on? Because you can't bring yesterday back. You can only be in today. And that's really the way I look at it.
It's interesting. People have been taking an inventory and they're like, well, wait a second. Devon said he forgave JR. Okay, so he forgave this guy, even though he did this terrible thing to him. And then they're like, well, wait, he just forgave Dixie Carter. And oh, wait, he forgave Hulk Hogan. This isn't an act. This isn't some phony baloney business to try to score, points or anything like that. This is truly a life philosophy going on here. So again, and I think I asked you this before, but I will ask again. How does it feel to see that people are finally starting to get it? That like, no, guys, I'm really serious about my faith. This is what God commands us to do. This is what I do.
You know, again, you know me. I look at things from a biblical standpoint. If I feel like it touched my heart to say it, then I'm gonna say it. And they on my podcast, when Bubba was like, say the name, say the name. I didn't want to say it. And then, I know Maven shouted out, go Sooners. And, also I said, the person wearing a 10-gallon hat, there's only one 10-gallon hat person in WWE, that's an upper official. Again, I said what I said and I stand by it. And, again, that's what I said. Thank God there was other people that were there that witnessed it that were not African American. Because immediately, if they were African American, oh, he's trying to pull the race card. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to do that at all. Hell, I didn't even want this to get out, but it did, and I'm in a way I'm glad it did because now I can ease my heart and like I said, I can easily say now it's off my chest.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, man, again, I'm proud of you for being exactly who you say you are. I think that's the biggest compliment you could ever give anybody. It's like, nope, you are who you say you are, bro. And that's a refreshing thing to say, to see, because that's usually not the case with most people, unfortunately. Um, Switching speeds real quick here. An interesting thing happened in the wrestling world, and I definitely wanted to get your take on this. The champions in WWE right now, Jade Cargill, Stephanie Bakir, they're the two women who are the world champions on the main roster for women. You have CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. They're the two men on the main roster who are the champions. Ricky Starks is the NXT champion. When you think about all of these folks, these were folks who not that long ago were just in AEW. And in the case of Stephanie Bakir, she didn't officially have an AEW contract, but she was negotiating with them and she had a match there. So she was in a program with AEW. When you think about the fact that all of these former AEW stars are now champions in the WWE, what do you think about that, man? I mean, this is really, really interesting that WWE champions are people who were in AEW and they were difference makers in AEW for a period of time. What are your thoughts on that complete switch like that?
And they're over. So it just goes to show you, if you're put in a position to be booked the right way, it can happen. And again, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not trying to knock anybody. You AEW diehards can be mad at me all you want. But you and I both know that with all the talent that's in that company, there's no reason why you can't sell out 10, 15,000 seats arenas. There's no reason. And you have great talent, phenomenal talent. Some might even say better than the WWE. And yet the numbers that you're doing doesn't add up to that. So it's not the talent. It's behind the scenes. That's where the controversy lies. It's behind the scenes. You got to get better booking. Don't let the image run the asylum. Somebody has to be the Vince.
Somebody has to be the Vince indeed. Hey, there's a story out that Vince, in fact, it was JBL who said this. Vince may be working on a tell-all that will be released within the next year or two. What do you think about a Vince McMahon tell-all book?
Oh, shit, I better call him up right away and tell him to please forgive me. Don't put my shit out there. No, I'm joking, Dirt Sheet Writers. I'm joking. Um, I mean, I think Vince is at the point where he's like, fuck it, y'all want to come at me? Now I'm exposing everybody. It was almost like that scene in New Jack City when Nino was on trial at the end, when he's in the court and he blames the girlfriend's brother for being the head of the CMB crime family. And he gets up and he goes, I'm letting you know, y'all want to come at me? I'm taking everybody down. I ain't going down alone. I think that's the way Vince's philosophy is right now. He's like, listen, y'all want to expose me for what I've done? I'm exposing everybody else around me. That book is going to be very interesting if he's ready to tell the truth.
there were so many ways he could go with that book. I mean, Vince and Trump have been friends for so long.
I don't think he
Linda,
messed with Trump.
well, even if he was putting them over, still he's going to say some things that we've never heard before. If he
Hmm.
if he talks about Trump, you know what I mean? And Linda and their relationship. I think there's a lot that has been speculated, but we don't truly know what happened there. You know what I mean? Because
Well,
they're not divorced.
no,
They're
they're
not
separated from
divorced.
my understanding.
Yeah, they're separated, but they're not divorced. She's still his wife. If something happens to Vince or if something happens to Linda, the other party's still going to be in control of what to do with that person. You know what I mean? Folks, we don't think about that enough, but if you fall ill right now, who's going to be the person that's responsible for making decisions for you? So it's an interesting that whole dynamic. At least for me, I find that fascinating. I would love to hear more about the highs and lows and how they managed to find a way to get to this point where even though they're not together to a certain degree, they still rely on each other, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
uh,
I think that relationship has always been like that.
there it is. Because
They will
in a
always
way,
be
she was the
entwined with each
brains
other.
behind the business, right? She was
Yeah,
a
Linda
business.
handled the business aspect of everything. Vince handled the creative. It's kind of like
Yep,
what Triple H is doing now. He's
yep.
handling creative and all of that. By Nick is handling the business deals and stuff like that.
And quiet as it's kept, it looks like Stephanie is a lot more involved than what people realized. You know, she's quietly back in the fold, man.
Oh, good. Like I've always said, I gotta be careful what I say.
Gonna go viral
I
again on this.
I know on this one. No, I like Stephanie. I thought she was very smart. Um, she learned from her dad. She learned from Hunter. She learned from a lot of people. I'm even safe to say she learned from Pat Patterson, because I know she adored Pat. You know, um, I just think Stephanie is very good. I always said, don't double cross her. I said because if you think Vince is bad, if you double cross her, Stephanie's probably 10 times worse. I was like, and what makes it 10 times worse is because we always say that theory, like female cops have to be tougher, have to be bigger than who they are when they pull over a suspect because men may not look at them the same as other police officers, male wise, as their equal. So they always got to play the hard role, the dyke, excuse my expression, role of it. Like kind of make the woman the man in a sense. And you know, it's like I always said, Stephanie is you piss her off, you make her angry. Those slaps that she do in the ring, it ain't just a work. Trust me, she gets slapped you from here to tomorrow. She's one tough lady. Let me tell you that, and she's very smart. She's extremely smart. I've always got along with Stephanie. I always liked Stephanie as a human being and a person. And again, she was very genuine and very nice all around. Never had a problem with any of the McMahons and Paul Levesque. Never had an issue or a problem with any of them. They were really good to me, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart for being good to me like that.
It's funny. Hornswoggle, uh, he recently did one of Stephanie's shows, and he talked about how kind she's always been to him and how she's gone out of her way to stay in touch with him and encourage him and things like that. This guy's a little person. Um, Life ain't easy for him. Thank
Right.
God he had pro wrestling, but even then, pro wrestling is a land of the giants. Life wasn't always easy for him, but Stephanie made it a point to express humanity to him and really make it something that she stayed consistent. When I listen to Hornswoggle talk about the way Stephanie treats him, all I hear is you talking about the way Stephanie's treated you. Same story.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie is really was always a pleasant soul to be around. Very funny, charismatic, you name it, she really was. She basically, whenever you had an issue or a problem, you would be able to go to her and talk to her if Vince wasn't around or Hunter wasn't around. You were able to talk to her, and she would get the job done. I know during the Reverend Devon character, when it started going south, So, like I sat down with Stephanie and went and got some ideas that I wanted to run by her in terms of how to help get that character over. And she basically um she listened and gave some ideas as well. And for a couple of matches and things like that, it really worked. It really worked, the ideas that she came about. So I will always be indebted to Stephanie for just being so good and loyal to not only the locker room, but to certain individuals in it. And I'm one of them. She was very good to me. And so, again, the whole McMahon family was good to me. Uh, Triple H, Paul Levesque, fantastic. And never had an issue with them whatsoever. And I will go down to my grave. And you got some people say, "Oh, he's only saying that because he's still getting paid by them." Okay, number one, let me tell you something stupid. Yeah, I am still getting paid by the WWE, Legends contract, and anything else they want me to do. Yes. So I'm not stupid enough like you are to bite the hand that feeds you. I wouldn't do that, but that's not why I'm saying these things. I'm saying it because it's legit and it's true. Why not give somebody their flowers? Why not give them their recognition? I'm not going to wait until somebody passes on to do that. I'm going to do it now while they're here and they can hear me.
Ooh, coming in hot. Coming in hot. I love it. I love it. And I'm glad you said that because some of these knuckleheads, that's the nonsense they talk. Oh, he's only saying that for clicks. He's only saying that because he's getting paid by WWE. Folks, let me just tell you something. There isn't a person on this planet who ever posts anything online. I don't care if they have a podcast or they're just some nameless person on social media talking. There isn't a single one of us who makes something public who is not looking for people to see it. You want people to know your thoughts from your perspective. So we're all doing it for clicks. That's the point. If you didn't want people to know, you wouldn't have made it public. So it's
Mm-hmm.
such a ridiculous thing to say you're just doing it for clicks. We're all just doing it for clicks. We want the world to know our perspective. We don't want somebody else to define our thoughts, who we are, what we experienced. No, we want to be able to speak from our perspective about what's happened throughout our lives. And that's the reason why this show is so important because for the first time, you're getting Devon Dudley in the kind of detail like you've never heard before. It's not to say that Devon hasn't done other interviews or hasn't done other shows or anything like that, but there's something a little different here because we're not just talking about wrestling. Wrestling is like a theme that's in the air, but we're really talking about life. And when you get to hear a person really open up about who they are as a human being, what their values are, what's important to them, what they loved, what broke their heart, you can't get it any better than that because you're getting it from them. So just,
Not, I mean,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Not to mention, I don't want to, I got to keep going on my side, on my end. In other words, I got to keep the conversation going. I don't want to quote fall asleep. I don't want to fall asleep, because at least this conversation is interesting and keeps me up. That's all I'm gonna say
Listen,
on that.
listen, man, that one went viral too. The fact that we killed that story before it could happen.
Well, number
You
one,
know,
it's foolish. Number one, you never asked me to be a producer or to produce a match. I never produced anything. The first time I showed up was in Orlando, and I was told by QT Marshall, who I can't stand, and I don't care if he knows it. He can kiss my ass. He can't do shit about it. Um, he was like, "Oh, Tony wants to, say hello to you." So I said, "Okay." So I went over there. I said hello to him. He had the headset on. He was doing what he was doing, and I was there to meet him. Because they told me, they called me. They said, "Yeah, he wants to meet with you. So come on down to Orlando. It'd be fitting to do that." Okay, fine. I come down to Orlando. I'm sitting up there waiting and waiting. I'm in catering. I'm waiting and waiting and nothing. Finally, like I said, I went to go meet him. QT Marshall came, Tony wants to see. I go over there, I meet him, shake his hand. He goes, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, let's talk after, I'm kind of tied up right now." I'm like, "All right, not a problem." It was very respectful, not a problem. Okay, cool. We can talk afterwards. And then QT Marshall just went, what number do you want to come in and do? I said, okay, understand. I just want to be a producer. Again, like I've said in the interviews before, I said, I don't want to wrestle. I just want to be a producer. That's it. I was like, and this and that. He's like, well, you can do a little something with the boys, right? And I was just like, whatever. If it means helping them out, yeah, okay, so be it. And that was it. And then I was like, all right, well, we'll get back to you. So go ahead home and, don't worry about it. We're going to call you and let you know what's going on. All right. Then I had my agent call. They were like, hey, he wants to meet with you. Second time. I meet with him the second time. We're in Montreal. And they fly me up to Montreal. I go to meet them. I get there at 11 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get in until about, I think 11:30 to midnight. I get to the hotel, wired, freaking try to go to sleep. I can't, didn't fall asleep until about maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock that night. I remember because I was up watching freaking horror movies all night that night. And finally, I fell asleep and get up, and I had to get up at like 8 or 9, and go have breakfast, and then go meet my agent downstairs. We went to the building, got there about 11:30. You got me sitting there all day. I'm going back and forth from catering to the arena, back and forth, saying hello to people that I haven't seen in a while that I knew, meeting new people from there, and all of that. Okay, now it's like 9, 10 o'clock, no meeting, nothing. All of a sudden, some time goes by again, nothing. I didn't want to meet that man until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So you're damn right. I was probably sitting in the chair with my eyes closed. I should have been snoring on their ass. But I don't know if I was or not. But yeah, I was tired. You're damn right. You're sitting down waiting and waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden, would you have done that to Flair? No. Would you have done that to anybody else? No. But you did it to me. So F you, man. And then the third time, we meet in Orlando again. Same thing. I get there at about 11:30 noon, and you got me waiting around like some fucking young boy. You could have easily just, bringing me in the office and say, hey, Devon, blah, 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 this is what we have to offer, and blah, blah, blah. I can say yes or no to it and be on my way. But you didn't do that. You kept me until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning again, waiting outside your office. I finally told my lawyer, I said, only reason why I'm doing this is for the kids. I want to see my boys, make it. Other than that, he can go to hell with all of this disrespect. But yet he had a picture of himself in the ECW arena holding up a Taz sign, jumping up and down, cheering while I'm in the ring with Bubba. When Bubba and I were feuding in ECW, hitting Bubba with a chair, cracking it over his skull. And that was the night Tony was there and saw us at the arena. And my agent goes, he's got this picture he wants to show you. And he's a big ECW fan, a mark, what have you. I said, all right. I was like, I'll take a look at the picture. And he showed me. I was like, oh, all right, cool, interesting. I was like, yeah, I remember that. I remember that day. I remember that. It was November to Remember, 96, I believe it was. I was like, yeah, I remember that. He's like, yeah. He's like, you guys were good. You tore it down or what have you. I love ECW. He's telling me the whole nine. So I was like, all right, cool. And again, same thing. I'm like, I want to be a producer. I don't want to wrestle. Oh no, but maybe you could do a 6-man with the boys or a tag. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. I'm just 6 months off of back surgery. Why would I want to get in the ring and risk everything? And he just didn't seem to understand that. So not my fault. And I can give a damn less about what he thinks or what he thinks of me. I don't give a goddamn. I don't work for you, nor do you pay me anything. I'm happy with the WWE. I'm happy with the Legends deal. I'm happy with whatever projects they have me come to do, and that's it. People say, don't burn your bridge. I'm not burning my bridge. Don't talk shit about me that ain't true. Go F yourself. Fall asleep. Anybody would fall asleep if you're sitting up there from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, jackass, or whoever put that story out. Again, I don't have a problem with Tony, but if you're gonna lie on me, then I have a problem with it.
This is why you
And you're
show
right.
up, folks. Each episode, you're going to get this heat. Wait, I was right. You know, I love when I hear that. I was right about what?
Oh no, you were right about everything in terms of this whole fiasco. It's nerve wracking to know that you're going to try to cover your ass, and you don't really have to cover your ass. You didn't do anything wrong, so what the hell are you putting out lies for? If you are putting that out, why'd you put it out when you know it's not true? You never once came to me and said, "Oh, okay, let's test you out. Here's a match. Let me see you produce it." You didn't give me no barking orders to do that. So don't freaking lie and say you did because you didn't. I don't give
Yeah.
a goddamn how much money a person has. Don't lie on me, especially when I did nothing to you to make you lie. You can kiss my ass and take that money and shove it up your ass. I don't care. I do not care. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to be mean, but don't go do that. It ain't right. You know damn well nobody asked me to produce any matches there. I'd have been more than happy to do it to show what I could do. But not once was that given to me. So don't do that.
Well said. Well said.
And I'm gonna say this: if you don't like me, you don't have to like me. I don't need you to like me. You don't pay me. I don't need you to like me. If I'm blackballed from ever showing up there, okay. And like Jamie Foxx said when he was telling the joke about Jennifer Lopez, when Jennifer Lopez got mad at him, he said, "Jamie, I'm mad with you." "Well, why are you mad at me, Jenny?" He was like, "Well, you said I couldn't sing." And Jimmy went, "And?" You want to blacklist me?
Oh,
Fine, that's fine. I don't give a damn. I don't have to show up every day ever again. I'm not mad nor am I bitter about it, but don't lie. Do not lie about shit like that. And that kiss ass you got by your side, he can go to hell in
oof.
terms of talking about QT Marshall. I wish he would approach me. I wish he would. It would be
Damn.
the last time he ever approached me. Punk
What's
ass
the
bitch.
what? What is the best way everyone could keep up with you and everything you got to say out there, D-Boy? Because clearly you got a lot
Damn,
to
dude, you got me going.
say. I know, right?
Oh man. You can check me out on my social media at Testify Devon. Or again, I don't go on it as much. Like I said, I do check the inbox for messages at Testify Devon on Twitter. My Facebook is private. I don't have any fans, just very close friends and family on there. So you won't be able to reach me on there. And my YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you have not checked out the documentary, please check it out. Like and subscribe, get the word out. Tell me what you thought about the documentary. We've already expressed how we felt about it. Now it's your turn. Tell me what you felt. Not to mention, tell me things that you would like to see on the YouTube channel.
Damn right. Damn right. As always, Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook, on Twitter, DukeLovesWrestling@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Boy, we knocked it out of the park again, per usual, my brother. But it's that time of the week. Give us our word of the week.
The word of the week is when you tell untrue stories, you get reprimanded, you get told, and you just got told. Whether you think you did or not, you just got told. So don't lie about things that aren't true because it's only going to come back to bite you in the ass.
Testify.
Yes, my brother.
Strictly for the culture every day. Step in style in your unique way. Patterns and colors so defined. All about the perfect line. Be yourself, let your spirit fly. In this fashion, you'll touch the sky. Strictly for the culture, brand so fine.
visit www.strictlyfortheculture.ca.
Backstage whispers and the crowds roar, from matching giants to legends of yore. Devon's wisdom and Duke's keen view, every episode feels like it's brand new. Devon and the Duke bring the heat, wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never